Hey everyone, this is Amanda from Wayward and Whimsical Creations, and today I am going to teach you how to build jelly cubes. Jelly cubes are these wonderfully jiggly fidget cubes. And I've had a lot of people ask how they're made, so I'm going to show you. Jelly cubes are made up of a weave called Japanese 4-in-1. And the cubes are layers of Japanese 4-in-1 that are woven into each other. When you're thinking of Japanese 4-in-1, think horizontal and vertical rings. We have horizontal rings that lay flat within the weave, and then we have vertical rings that connect through the horizontal rings, each layer together. Jelly cubes are best made with rings that have an AR or aspect ratio of 2.6 to 2.75. Aspect ratio is inner wire diameter divided by wire diameter or wire thickness. So any rings that have an AR of 2.6 to 2.75. I really love using 18 standard wire gauge 1/8 jump rings from Chainmaille Joe. They are the perfect size for jelly cubes, and they come in all sorts of fun colors. For today's tutorial, though, we are going to be using a slightly larger ring. We are using 16 standard wire gauge 5/32 jump rings from the Ring Lord. Just, I feel a larger ring will be easier to see on camera. So, to get started, you have to decide how big of a cube you want to make. And to figure that out, there is a little bit of math involved. So let's take this 4x4 cube, for example. So 4x4 is 16, but you have 16 3 times in one layer. We have 16 horizontal rings, and then we have 16 going right to left, and 16 going bottom to top, top to bottom. Whatever. So 4x4 is 16, but we have that 3 times in one layer. So 16 times 3 is 48. You have 48 rings per layer. To get a 4x4 cube, you have to double the 4, so you need 8 layers to make a cube shape. So you need 384 jump rings. Same with this 6x6 cube. 6x6 is 36, but again, we have that 3 times in one layer. We have our horizontal rings, and then we have our vertical rings going this way, and our vertical rings going this way. So 36 times 3 is 108. For a 6x6 cube, you have to double it. So you need 12 layers. 108 times 12, 1,296 jump rings just in this little cube. You're also going to need pliers. I recommend the Xuron brand. These are the 483 wide flat nose. Something with a smaller tip and smooth jaws. It doesn't have to be Xuron's. I just really like this brand. You're also going to need something to secure your weave. I really love using this mail card from West Coast Chainmaille. The first few layers of a fidget cube are pretty fiddly, and this allows you to secure the weave and kind of spread it out to see where your next jump rings need to go. If you don't have one of these, you can use a piece of plastic canvas. You can take a piece of cardstock and just punch holes in it. You can also take twisty ties or a paper clip and just secure like a corner of your weave, just something to help spread the weave out so you can see where you're weaving. Once you have all your supplies gathered, it's time to start. For today's video, I'm going to show you how to weave a 4x4 cube. So each layer of a 4x4 cube is going to be made up of 16 horizontal rings and 32 vertical rings that connect the layers together. So you're going to start out by creating 4 1-in-1 chains that are 8 rings long. So you're going to take these and you're going to connect them this way until you have 8 rings. And what I mean by a 1-in-1 chain is literally 1 jump ring going into 1 jump ring going into 1 jump ring, and so on. So 4 chains that are 8 rings long. As you can see, I have it almost started. So I took my 4 1-in-1 chains and I popped them on my mail card here. And I already connected 3 of them together, so now we need to connect our 4th one. And it's going to get connection points through all the yellow rings. The yellow rings are my horizontal rings, and the orange are going to be the vertical. So I need to connect my yellow rings together. So I'm taking all the yellow rings and I'm connecting them to their neighbors. And then we need to finish off the row by adding orange rings here. So we want to make sure we have 8 rings going this way. We also need 8 rings going left to right. And this is layer 1 finished. Now, if you look closely, the vertical rings from layer 1 create these little wells. This is where our next row of our next layer of horizontal rings are going to sit. So you're going to take a horizontal ring, it's going to sit in the middle of all these vertical rings, and then we're going to connect them to all the vertical rings that surround it. So I took the liberty of pre-closing some jump rings just to make this go a little faster. And if it helps you to pre-close all your horizontal rings, feel free. I'm usually a open and weave as I go type of girl, but for efficiency's sake, I went ahead and pre-closed some jump rings. So I'm going to take one of my closed jump rings. I'm going to take one of my orange rings. Now remember, yellow is horizontal, orange is vertical. So starting in the bottom left-hand corner, and each layer I always start in the bottom left, and I will rotate my work because this is the only corner that has a completed square. It has 4 vertical rings on each side. If you look at the other corners, it's not a completed well. Oh, excuse me. And for my own sake, it just makes it easier for me to flip my work and always start in the bottom left. So I'm going to take this, and your vertical ring is going to go through your horizontal ring and then through the vertical ring from layer 1. And then I'm going to connect it down here as well. And then we're going to take another vertical ring, hop on a horizontal, and I'm going to build my row out from bottom to top. And then I need to secure this to that vertical ring. And one thing to remember, horizontal rings only get woven through the vertical rings in the layer you're working. Vertical rings go through the horizontal rings of your working layer and through the vertical rings in the layer previous. So I'm going through a horizontal ring and then through a vertical ring from layer 1. Now, even though this is not a completed well, we're still putting a jump ring here. Your cube is going to be, the layers are going to be offset, which adds to the jiggliness. Okay, so there's my first row of layer 2, and then I'm going to build it out left to right. So vertical ring, hop on a horizontal. I'm going through the vertical ring and then through the horizontal ring from the first row. And then I need to secure this horizontal ring to the vertical rings that are around it. And then again, I'm going to build my row up bottom to top. Through the horizontal ring I just added, through the vertical ring in layer 1, and through the horizontal ring that is its neighbor. The reason this weave is called Japanese 4-in-1 is for every yellow horizontal ring, it is going to have 4 vertical rings woven through it until you get to the very edge of the weave. All right, and there's row 2. So now I'm going to start building my third row. My horizontal rings are only getting woven through the vertical rings in my working layer. The vertical rings go through the horizontal rings and through the vertical rings of the layer underneath. And there's my third row. So now we're going to add one final row. And like I said, even though these on the edge here aren't completed wells, we're still putting a horizontal ring here and connecting it on 3 sides instead of 4. So your layers are going to be offset. So you're going to have extra rings on this side, and then in layer 2, your extra rings are going to be left and bottom instead of top and right. Ooh, excuse me. All right, and that's layer 2 complete. Now, if you look, our completed corner is now top right. It's the only corner that has a completed well with 4 vertical rings. So at this point, what I like to do is I'm going to pop my work off and I'm going to rotate it so that bottom corner, completed corner, is now bottom left. And this is where I'm going to start layer 3. So again, I'm going to add a horizontal ring and connect it to the corner, and then I'm going to build my row out this way, and then I'm going to build my cube out left to right. And again, my horizontal rings are only getting woven through the vertical rings of my working layer, which would be layer 3. But the vertical rings go through the vertical rings of the previous layer and through the horizontal rings of your working layer. Sometimes vertical ring will pop through from the layer underneath, and you got to kind of fiddle with it to get it back in place. Okay, and that's the first row of layer 3. So now I'm going to start building my cube out this way. Almost added a vertical ring where I didn't need one. All right, and that's row 2. Now we're going to add row 3. Ooh, excuse me. Row 3, and now for the final row in our 3rd layer. Again, horizontal rings are getting connected to the vertical ring in your working layer. Vertical rings are going through the vertical ring in the layer before, and the horizontal rings in your working layer. And now we're going to connect our row together, bottom to top. And that's layer 3. And as you can see, our completed corner is again top right. If you look at all the other corners, it's not a completed square. So I'm going to take my work and I'm going to rotate it so that completed corner is now bottom left. And I'm going to start layer 4 the same way. I'm going to start in this corner. I'm going to build my row out this way. And then I'm going to build the cube out left to right. And you're just going to keep doing that until you get to 8 layers. And when you're finished, you will end up with this wonderfully jiggly, fabulous fidget toy. Good luck. If you guys have any questions about the jelly cubes, feel free to drop them in the comments. Otherwise, happy weaving.